Hello and welcome. I'm the Big Shot Critic, and today it's the beginning of M. Night Shyamalan's end. Also, a special welcome to all those who are joining me from my Gone with the Wind video, which has become very popular, at least by my channel standards, so welcome to you. Lady in the Water was once seen as M. Night Shyamalan's worst movie. He became a household name with The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and Signs, and then he made The Village, which had some haters. Then came Lady in the Water, which had many haters. This movie was shredded by audiences and critics. People declared Shyamalan a has-been who peaked early and would now fade away. But this was just the beginning of what has to be the most spectacular downward spiral in Hollywood history. His next 3 movies were universally panned: The Happening in 2008, The Last Airbender in 2010, and After Earth in 2013. Of those 3, After Earth has the highest audience score on Rotten Tomatoes with 36%. For comparison, The Last Jedi's audience score is 42%. M. Night Shyamalan has had some success since then. His reputation has gone from reliably bad to hit or miss. He's not the golden boy that he was in days past, but he's doing okay. Time has been merciful to Lady in the Water. What was once viewed as his worst movie is now just that weird movie he made before things got really bad. But enough background, let's get to the movie. I'm going to start with the good stuff, so if you're hoping to see me dump on this movie, stick around. Lady in the Water is about the superintendent of an apartment complex who discovers a lady in the water, in this case, the apartment pool. He finds himself in the middle of what people thought was just a bedtime story, but it's real. There are sea nymphs, monsters, and giant eagles. Paul Giamatti plays Cleveland, the superintendent. He's awesome in the role, and his ability to give a naturalistic performance is really something. In this scene, he's supposed to act like a child as he enjoys some cookies, and he snaps his fingers. It's one of those things I would never think to add, but somehow it's perfect. The character also goes through some really intense emotions, and Giamatti nails it. Every scene of the movie takes place in the apartment complex called The Cove. There are tons of side characters, and I think they're all very colorful and fun. They can seem a little bland or overplayed at times, but there's so many of them that the effect works, and the apartment complex feels like it could be real. The themes of Lady in the Water are pretty strong, and it delivers on most of them. The most clear is the message that none of us knows how important we really are, that we are all capable of very great things, and that anyone could be destined to carry out a great work. This is mainly demonstrated in the characters of Story and Nick. Story is the name of the Lady in the Water, the sea nymph from the bedtime story played by Bryce Dallas Howard. Nick is the writer living in the apartment building played by M. Night Shyamalan himself. More on those casting choices later. These two especially have big tasks in front of them, but the other characters add to the message. All of them, seemingly brought together by chance, have an essential part to play. One common criticism of this movie is that the fairy tale is way too complicated. I disagree. I think the fairy tale is intentionally complicated to allow every character to play a part. This affirms the message that we all have a part to play in our real lives. This part of the movie really works for me, and I think it was done really well. The importance of being childlike and accepting that there may be much more to the world than what we know is also explored in this movie. Many of the characters struggle with the idea of living through a bedtime story. The scene I mentioned earlier where Cleveland must show himself to be childlike is part of this theme. Shyamalan gave Cleveland a very tragic backstory so he can better reflect this theme. The utmost belief in the fairy tale is required of Cleveland, and it is Cleveland who has the greatest reason to doubt fairy tales. And that brings us to another very common complaint about Lady in the Water. There is a movie critic who moves into the complex. The movie portrays him as jaded, joyless, and very closed-minded, and it punishes him for it. A lot of the people think this is M. Night Shyamalan just having a go at movie critics for the heck of it, but they're wrong. Mr. Farber, the film critic, is the other end of the spectrum from Cleveland. Cleveland opens up to the idea of belief through the movie. Mr. Farber remains closed. The message isn't that movie critics are dumb. The message is that being closed-minded is a weakness, and using a film critic is just a tongue-in-cheek way to deliver the message. Speaking of film critics, let's go to the second half of this review. The movie is shot unconventionally, which is fine, but sometimes you wonder if the cameraman fell asleep. What in the world is going on in this shot, for example? I think they were trying to make the audience feel bleary-eyed because Cleveland just woke up, but it's just annoying instead. The editing is downright bad. I would not be surprised to learn that the studio interfered with the final cut because I'm pretty sure I see the work of two different editors here, and one of them is definitely unfamiliar with the material. For example, all the characters meet in Nick's apartment and decide the potheads need to throw a party. Then, in this shot, we can hear the potheads planning a party in Nick's sister's room while she sleeps on the couch. This is wrong because we know the potheads have their own apartment.
Baby's on the half-tick.
And we know Story is staying in Nick's sister's room.
She can stay here as long as she needs to.
Then we get this shot of Cleveland's bungalow, suggesting that this next scene between Cleveland and Story takes place in his bungalow. This is wrong because that ain't Cleveland's bungalow. It's Nick's sister's room. We know, because we've seen it before. Obviously, this was meant to be edited with this transition shot outside the bedroom into this scene inside the bedroom, but the editor didn't know the material. Sometimes studios are unhappy with the cut of the film delivered by the director, so they hire their own editors to re-edit the film. These edits are always sloppy, careless, and they never show respect for the original vision of the film. The monster in this movie is called a Scrunt. It seems only suited to disguise itself in grass lawns, which I find hilarious, but its design gets a pass from me because A, bedtime story, and B, it embodies this idea that there is so much in the world around us that we don't see. The part about the Scrunt that does not get a pass is its behavior. Why is it so angry at this laundry? Why doesn't it go through this glass panel on this door? It's clearly not worried about noise, and it went through another glass panel earlier in the movie.
Was it that dog again?
And how is it that the Scrunt broke the door frame in such a way to open inward when it was pushing outward? It's just sloppy filmmaking. But, on the other hand, I don't have a dog. Do they growl at laundry? Leave a comment. Bryce Dallas Howard as Story the Sea Nymph is close, but no cigar. It's not all the actress's fault. The character has a lot of potential, but she's just not fleshed out. She's from the blue world, and all we know is that has something to do with the ocean. Sometimes she's mysterious, but sometimes it just comes off as her being difficult and annoying. What doesn't help is when Shyamalan uses her to literally read Cleveland his own backstory from his journals. Really? You couldn't find a better way to disguise that exposition? Most of the time she's stone silent, but put a walkie-talkie in her hands and she breaks character, becoming louder and more expressive than ever. Why? Because it's a suspenseful scene, and Shyamalan wants the audience to feel that. Sure, the situation was life-threatening, but she faces at least 2 other life-threatening situations in this movie without making a sound. She's just not that well thought out, and it's a shame because the character has the potential to be really interesting. And now we come to another theme, the theme of mankind's folly and arrogance. This theme is possible to get right, but Lady in the Water missed it. Right at the start of the movie, the narrator himself states that mankind has forgotten how to listen, and this is why we have wars and violence. Narrators don't explore ideas. Narrators lay down the rules of the movie. When a narrator says something like that, it's not up for debate from the other characters, nor can it be challenged by the narrator's experiences. In other words, it is the official position of Lady in the Water that mankind has forgotten how to listen. Now, whether or not you agree with this position is not the point. The point is, you don't give narrators lines like that because it's preachy. When Cleveland first sees the wolf monster, he calls animal control. And this animal control guy is obviously meant to play into this message. It's really too much.
It's obviously some dumb animal who muddied himself. There's nowhere for a dumb big animal to hide.
Now, by itself, I would not call this a fatal flaw, but paired with the fact that M. Night Shyamalan plays Nick, it's a big problem. Nick is the author living in the apartment complex, and he's writing a book about political ideas and the nature of leadership. Story has come to this apartment complex specifically to inspire Nick in the writing of this book. This is what sea nymphs do in the fairy tale. They come to inspire people. Nick's book is going to inspire someone who will become a great leader and change the world. M. Night Shyamalan gave himself the role of the writer who will change the world. Now, I don't think Lady in the Water is a vanity project, but I can sure understand why people think it is a vanity project. And that is why people don't take this movie seriously. Guys, I give Lady in the Water 5 out of 10 commandments. It broke the 7th one. Thou shalt not bite off more than you can chew. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. And let me know in the comments below what you thought of Lady in the Water. Bye-bye.